Look at the top of the social ladder. They project power and control, but underneath, they often inhabit a state of profound isolation. These are the improbable visitors, people who appear to have everything, but feel entirely empty. This animated diagram illustrates the Greek concept of zeteo. Notice how the loop never closes. This isn't a passing curiosity. It maps a continuous, unresolved thirst, a search for meaning that material success fails to satisfy. This psychological profile has a first-century equivalent. Look at the ancient landscape of Jericho. 2,000 years ago, this wealthy oasis was home to Zacchaeus, a highly influential, deeply despised chief tax collector. Zacchaeus had achieved total material success, yet he was desperate for something else. For him, and for many today, achievement functions as a mask covering a persistent, ongoing need for a genuine spiritual encounter. When Jesus enters the city, Zacchaeus tries to reach him, but he immediately hits a wall. He faces a physical barrier in his own small stature, and a social barrier in the dense, impenetrable crowd surrounding the teacher. In this narrative, Zacchaeus' height serves as a theological shorthand for his unworthiness. It is a physical manifestation of a man who lacks the spiritual standing to see over the obstacles in his way. The crowd creates a literal ring of proximity around Jesus. These are the religious insiders, who by their very presence function as structural gatekeepers. Because of their position and their status, this established group physically and socially blocks the unworthy seeker from accessing the grace they claim to follow. This reveals the central paradox. The people standing closest to the source of grace often become the primary obstacle for those trying to find it. To see Jesus, Zacchaeus has to abandon the dignity of his rank. Look at the rough bark and massive scale of this sycamore. A wealthy official had to physically shimmy up this tree in public, an act of raw, humiliating desperation. Then comes the subversion. Jesus ignores the righteous insiders. He stops directly under the tree, looks up, and breaks every social protocol by calling the outcast by his name. Jesus says, "I must stay at your house." This diagram defines the Greek word die. It isn't a conditional if-then pathway. Die represents a divine, absolute necessity, a non-negotiable vector of urgency. This vector punches through the rigid boundary of the religious sanctuary and lands directly in the unpolished, domestic world of the seeker. This is evangelism by habitation, the divine entering the seeker's actual life rather than demanding they enter the temple. Grace does not wait for a person to become presentable. It actively invades their current reality. The crowd reacts instantly when Jesus chooses the outcast. A wave of hostile murmuring ripples through the street, a collective grumbling defined in the text as diagongizo. This grumbling stems from specific expectations. They want a version of grace that rewards the just and excludes the rule breakers. Today, it manifests through insider jargon or judgmental attitudes toward visible brokenness. It's the sound of the in-group protecting its territory. Unconditional grace is inherently offensive to religious systems because it dismantles their authority to decide who gets in and who stays out. The result is a total transformation. Zacchaeus repents and promises to redistribute his wealth to those he defrauded. Look at the timeline of this change. The repentance occurs strictly after Jesus enters the house and accepts him, not before. Community and acceptance are the starting points, not the reward at the end. Behavioral change follows a specific order. It is the natural response to finding love, rather than a fee paid to earn it. Demanding that an outsider fix their life before they are offered community ignores the very way salvation is shown to work. This leaves us with a question. In your own community, are you functioning as the gatekeeping crowd or the elevating sycamore tree? To follow this mandate, you must first look for those who are short in stature, the seekers and the discouraged who are struggling to see over the noise. Second, silence the grumble. Strip away the judgmental barriers and theological exams so that a visitor's first experience is your hospitality. Third, open your table. Invite someone to share a meal in your home without a religious agenda, simply to dwell with them where they are. The mission of the church remains what it was in Jericho, to seek and save the lost. To reach the modern seeker, we must stop building walls and start becoming the tree that helps them see over the crowd.